Japan is running one of the most extreme economic experiments in history. Its government debt is more than 2.5 times its entire economy. Its population is shrinking, its workforce is aging, its growth has been near zero for decades. By every rule we're taught, this should end badly. Markets should panic, the currency should collapse, living standards should implode. But none of that happened. Japan didn't collapse, it didn't default, it didn't spiral. Instead, it did something stranger. It stayed stable. Today, we're decoding how Japan broke an economic rule that's supposed to keep countries alive, and why what looks like success is actually something far more complex. Why Japan shouldn't work. There's a core assumption baked into modern economics. If a country borrows too much, eventually it pays the price, either through inflation, currency collapse, debt default, or political chaos. Japan ignored that script, debt kept rising, growth stayed weak, and still, nothing snapped. To understand why, we need to move past surface explanations and into the hidden forces holding Japan together. And fittingly, we'll break this into 8 forces. In Japan, 7 is a lucky number, tied to Buddhism and the 7 lucky gods. But 8 is considered even luckier for some. The character for 8 widens at the bottom. It symbolizes expansion, endurance, and a future that doesn't close in. Japan's economy didn't grow upward, it widened. Let's decode how. Hidden force number 1, Japan owes the debt to itself. Let's start by clearing up the biggest misconception. Japan is not drowning in foreign debt. Most of its government bonds are owned domestically by Japanese households, pension funds, insurance companies, and the central bank. This matters more than the headline number. When a country owes money to foreigners, confidence is fragile. Capital can flee overnight. When a country owes money to itself, the debt becomes internal. Interest payments circulate back into the same economy. Losses don't trigger foreign retaliation. Pressure dissipates instead of exploding. Japan didn't remove the risk, it relocated it inward. That alone explains why panic never arrived. Hidden force number 2. The central bank became the market. In most economies, markets discipline governments. Interest rates rise when investors lose confidence. Bond yields spike when debt feels risky. Currencies weaken when trust erodes. That's the warning system. Japan disconnected it. Instead of reacting to markets, the Bank of Japan slowly replaced them. At first, it began buying government bonds to stabilize the economy. Then it bought more and more. Until one day, something fundamental changed. Prices weren't being discovered anymore. They were being set. This is what economists call yield curve control. But that name understates how radical it is. The central bank didn't just influence interest rates, it announced them. It told the market exactly how much a Japanese government bond would yield and promised to defend that price at all costs. If yields tried to rise, the Bank of Japan stepped in and bought everything offered. There was no fight, because you can't fight a buyer with infinite money. Over time, traders stopped trying, not because Japan suddenly looked healthy, but because betting against the central bank became pointless. This quietly killed the bond market as an information system. Normally, bond yields tell us how risky a country feels, how credible its finances are, how worried investors might be. In Japan, those signals went silent. The market stopped speaking. Imagine a thermostat that no longer reacts to temperature, it just displays the number the operator wants to see. The room might feel fine, but the feedback loop is gone. That's what Japan traded away. Stability replaced price discovery. Calm replaced signals. The benefit was obvious. No panic, no sudden spikes, no bond crisis headlines. The cost was invisible. When prices don't move, pressure doesn't disappear. It builds quietly underneath. Japan didn't remove risk from the system, it stored it. And as long as the central bank keeps holding the line, everything looks stable. But the moment control weakens, markets won't gently adjust. They'll remember everything at once. That's why Japan looks calm, and why economists still watch it closely. Hidden force number 3, deflation rewired behavior. Here's something rarely discussed outside academic circles. Japan didn't just experience slow growth, it experienced deflation. Prices fell, wages stagnated, returns disappeared. That changes how humans behave. People stop rushing, they delay purchases, they save instead of speculate. Japan didn't collapse because people stopped expecting tomorrow to be better than today. In many countries, optimism fuels bubbles. In Japan, caution absorbed shock. Deflation hurt growth, but it also removed frenzy. If this is already shifting how you think about economic failure, that's the point of hidden economics. We're not here to scare you with numbers. We're here to show you how systems actually behave. If that kind of clarity is valuable to you, consider subscribing. We're still building this channel together. Hidden force number 4. An aging population that stabilized the system. Japan's aging population is often described as a crisis, but it also acted as a brake. Older populations spend less, save more, resist risk, avoid sudden change. That reduces growth, but it also reduces instability. Japan traded economic momentum for social predictability. No revolutions, no mass unrest, no political lurches. The system slowed instead of breaking. Hidden force number 5. Cultural trust replaced growth. This is where economics meets psychology. Japan has extraordinarily high institutional trust. People believe the government will function. The central bank will act. The system won't suddenly betray them. That belief matters. In low-trust societies, fear creates self-fulfilling crises. In high-trust societies, patience absorbs pressure. Japan didn't need constant growth to survive. It needed collective belief that the system would hold. And it did. Hidden force number 6. Corporations became shock absorbers. There's another reason Japan never erupted into chaos, and it has nothing to do with government policy. It sits inside Japanese companies. In many Western economies, businesses respond to downturns the same way. They cut fast, they fire workers, they protect profits. Japan chose a different path. Japanese companies acted as shock absorbers for the entire economy. Instead of laying people off, they held on to employees. Instead of cutting headcount, they cut wages. Instead of maximizing efficiency, they prioritized survival. This wasn't accidental. For decades, Japanese corporate culture valued lifetime employment, internal loyalty, social responsibility, long-term continuity. So when growth stalled, companies didn't eject workers into the system. They absorbed the hit internally. Bonuses disappeared, wages stagnated, promotions slowed, but jobs remained. This mattered more than most people realize. Unemployment is not just an economic number, it's a psychological shock. Mass layoffs create fear. Fear creates political pressure. Political pressure creates instability. Japan avoided that loop by keeping people employed, even at lower pay. Companies preserved social order. There's another layer here that almost no one talks about. Japanese firms hoarded cash. Instead of reinvesting aggressively, they stockpiled reserves. From a Western perspective, this looks inefficient. From a stability perspective, it's defensive genius. Cash became a buffer. When demand fell, companies didn't collapse. They dipped into reserves. When crises hit, they didn't scramble for bailouts. They endured. The trade-off was productivity. Innovation slowed. Returns fell. Zombie companies lingered longer than they should have. But again, Japan wasn't optimizing for growth. It was optimizing for continuity. Corporate Japan became the sponge that soaked up economic pressure, so households didn't have to. This is one of the least understood reasons Japan stayed socially stable. The pain didn't vanish. It was quietly absorbed, firm by firm, worker by worker, year by year. And once you see that, Japan's calm starts to make sense. The common misconception: Japan proves debt doesn't matter. Let's pause and correct this properly. Japan does not prove that debt is harmless. Japan proves that context matters more than numbers. Who holds the debt? Who controls the currency? How society reacts to stagnation. Most countries cannot copy Japan. They lack the trust, the domestic savings, and the patience. Japan isn't a template. It's a special case. Hidden force number 7, time was used as a tool. Here's a subtle but powerful idea. Japan didn't solve its problems, it stretched them instead of allowing a crash, a reset, or mass loss. Japan distributed pain slowly across decades. Lower wages, fewer opportunities, less growth, but less trauma. Time became the pressure valve. That's not free, but it is effective. What almost no one knows. Japan didn't avoid collapse. It redefined it. Here's the part almost no one talks about. Japan didn't survive its crisis. It changed what collapse looks like. Most people imagine collapse as something sudden, a crash, a panic, a visible breaking point. Japan chose a different path. Instead of allowing one dramatic failure, it spread failure thinly over time. Lower wages, fewer promotions, less innovation. A generation that quietly adjusted expectations downward. Nothing exploded, but nothing fully recovered either. In hidden economics terms, Japan didn't release pressure, it absorbed it. Like a shock absorber, the system converted force into friction instead of motion. And that's why Japan looks fine from the outside, while feeling stagnant from the inside. This is the part textbooks don't teach. Collapse doesn't always look like chaos. Sometimes it looks like permanent limbo. Hidden force number 8, Japan absorbed pressure instead of releasing it. This is the insight almost no one talks about. Japan didn't win. It absorbed stress the way shock absorbers do, by converting force into heat instead of movement. The economy didn't surge, it settled, debt didn't disappear, it became permanent. Growth didn't rebound, it flattened. Japan chose endurance over expansion, and that choice explains everything. Japan isn't a failure case, it's an early case. Many wealthy nations are drifting the same way. Aging populations, rising debt, central bank intervention, slower growth. Japan didn't fall behind the future, it arrived early. What Japan really teaches us: Japan broke an economic rule, but it didn't escape consequences. It traded growth for stability, volatility for control, crisis for quiet stagnation. That trade worked, so far. The real question isn't whether Japan failed, it's whether other countries are making the same trade, without realizing it. When you understand how systems truly work, you stop fearing headlines and start seeing design. If this helped you see Japan differently, tell me in the comments. Would you choose stability, even if it meant no growth? This channel is still growing. Every thoughtful viewer helps shape what we decode next. So, until then, stay smart, stay curious, decode the system.